Okay, I thought I would go ahead and attempt a state of the design presentation for Troops in Contact, or TIC. Troops in Contact is a small unit combat action rule set that I have been working on for several months now. It is focused on really the war since 9/11, but it can certainly handle combat situations where the doctrine and organization of the forces is based on the team level, with modern weaponry and all the other accoutrements of modern war, contemporary war. Yeah, state of the design. The last round of playtesting, the last serious round of playtesting really made me focus a lot on the sequence of play. Made me focus so much on the sequence of play that basically after that last round of playtesting, I decided that I really had to hammer out and resolve what the sequence of play was going to be for this rule set. That makes me want to mention something. The design here, the design effort of Troops in Contact, the design effort is never final. So it's not a case of me saying to myself, I must complete the sequence of play before moving on. First of all, experience just doesn't show that these things are ever really complete with respect to the design effort. And just as importantly, experience shows that when you make changes to one, core group of mechanics, core to the design, it can often have unintended consequences in other areas of the design. Okay, so not really ever really final, but when I think of final, what I mean is I need a workable solution. So I definitely concluded after this last round of playtesting that I need a workable solution to the basic sequence of play. So that's what I've been focusing on, and that's what I want to walk through in this video, primarily, to just walk through the sequence of play and where I am at with it. Okay. So, very interesting. Very interestingly, this is Fire and Movement, the form of conflict simulation. This is number 8. It's funny that they seem to have forgotten to print the year on here, but this is what, 77, I think? 1977, yeah, so. So this just happens to be my last game purchase. This arrived in the mail about a week ago. I got it because I want to see what they have to say. I wanted to see what this very old magazine had to say about October War, because I've played probably a grand total of like one half of a scenario from October War and had a blast. So I want to get back to that. I want to get October War back out on the table. And so I think that I will be either dedicating something to this magazine separately, or at least dedicating some video time to this magazine when I get out October War again. But received this, arrived in the mail a couple weeks ago, or sorry, about a week ago, and I was just thumbing through it, seeing if it was kind of what I thought it was going to be, and it is. But well, one thing jumped out at me. Just so I'm thumbing through this. This is an article, by the way. It says close up. Avalon Hill's Arab-Israeli Wars, SPI's October War. So this kind of looks like maybe a side-by-side comparison, these two games. Let's see what it says. The Arab-Israeli Wars and October War comprise the most recent attempts to advance the state of the art, and their near simultaneous publication and the comparisons this begs for provide us with an excellent opportunity to analyze our current level of sophistication regarding this subject. Okay. Which I guess is modern tactical games. These two games can be used as milestones. They tell us where tactical game design has been and where it is going. Okay. A fascinating premise for an article, right? So I'm thumbing through here, and right here I see a section labeled sequence of play, which of course is what's been dominating so much of my attention with Troops in Contact. So it's very interesting. First of all, it just opens up and says sequence of play isn't really a big issue with operational and strategic games, but when you get to tactical level simulations, sequence of play can what sequence of play a designer goes with can have a huge impact on all sorts of modeling issues and play issues. Yes, and then this caught my eye. Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, right here. This is wow. Problems with sequence of play can be one of the biggest distractions in playing tactical games, and most likely in designing them as well. There is yet to be a system which is equitable, refrains from introducing extraneous factors into the play of the game, and is easy to work with. I just found this just so it's incredible that I read these words just a couple days ago. It's not incredible that these words were printed way back in 1977. Not that at all, because I think this has always been around as long as we, well, basically been trying to put the small unit combat action experience into a game. No, it's just I find it incredible that I read these words at exactly this time, completely unplanned or whatever, unexpected, whatever. At the same time that I'm basically wrestling with problems with sequence of play and it being incredibly distracting to the ability to move forward with the design of Troops in Contact, and the difficulties of finding a sequence of play that's equitable, refrains from introducing extraneous factors, and is easy to work with. These are exactly what I've been banging my head against recently, and so it was just really interesting and eye-opening to read these at exactly this time. So I thought that was interesting. So sequence of play. So just to throw some pieces down on the map. So what I thought I would do is, this is not a playtest session whatsoever. I'm going to completely skip any of the table lookups, die rolls, or anything like that. What I'm only going to focus on is walk through, step through, sequence of play, flow of play. And so when there's going to be fire, resulting in casualties. Okay, this is all going to be nominal. I'm just going to be throwing stuff down, representative. I'm not going to be looking anything up, rolling any dice, resolving anything. I'm just going to go with example, possible, results or whatever. Okay, so the focus here is just stepping through the sequence of play. I think the last kind of the idea to test here is to go with what I call a hard sequence of play. So hard sequence of play means, and it should clarify some things, hard sequence of play means when units act, so when units act, they will always be marked with +1, +2, +3, +4 PM or period markers. Actually, let me back up just a bit. There are no turns. There are still no turns. I kind of stand by that. So to start, in the draft rules, there might be a section like sequence of play, which is basically what is the flow of the game. The type of sequence of play is alternating player action. Alternating player action. A player action may be either resolve a casualty factor, i.e. resolve a combat, basically. So a player action is either resolve a CF or or act with a unit, and I guess or pass. So the only 3 actions at this point: resolve a CF, act with a unit, or pass. Resolving a CF is a player action, so you are using your opportunity to act, but the units involved in that resolution are not marked PM, which means that they still may act in the current action period. Okay. Well, I guess I'll keep that. When a unit acts, it will always be marked, +1, +2, +3, +4 PM, which again does correspond to a future action period. So if this unit acts in the second action period and expends 4, or let's say expends 3 action points, when it's done acting, it will be marked with +3 PM. It will be marked +3 period marker, which is always relative. +3 from the second action period is 1, 2, 3. Loop back around to this is the first period, second period, third period, fourth period marker. Yeah. So they will be color coded and they'll have like 1 PM or just 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. But this corresponds with the first action period, second action period, third action period, fourth action period of an action cycle. Which actually rules-wise, looking at the Great Campaigns of the American Civil War rules the other day, after I explained that this is an alternating player action system, probably the next thing is play proceeds through a number of action cycles, and an action cycle is made up of a first, second, third, fourth action period. Okay. Then from there we go to the action period. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so now we go to marking. After a unit acts, it will always be marked, again, +1, +2, +3, +4 PM or period marker. relative to the current period. So again, to use another example, if it is the 4th action period and this blue 4 unit acts and it expends 2 action points, when it's done acting, it is marked with, we're in this 4th action period, we go forward 1, 2, it's marked with a blue or number 2 period marker. And that basically shows its relative activity within the passage of time, so to speak. Although I don't want to, see, this is what I'm wrestling with. How much, and this is a good rules question. This isn't a very complex or advanced question whatsoever. It's very basic, right? Very basic question when it comes to rules design and especially rules writing and presentation. And this is what I keep wrestling with. Do I take the time to explain what this represents? Or can possibly the explanation basically, and I guess it's non-intuitive, but can the explanation of what this represents actually confuse the presentation of the idea? I mean, the one way is that I only talk procedure, right? It is this action period, this unit expends 2 action points, it is marked 1, 2, just go through the procedure and that's it. No explanation whatsoever. But I still haven't decided, so that question, I'll just set that question aside. What this is meant to represent, which I guess is a good point to interject here. And I know I'm going to be stepping back quite a bit. Okay, I'm going to be stepping back quite a bit. I was doing some reading on the miniatures page, design discussion board, message board, recently. And I have to emphasize, again, I think I mentioned this, but it doesn't matter whether I mention this or not. Doesn't matter whether I mention this. I'm motivated to design this game. I call my motivation a positive motivation, not a negative motivation. I categorically am not designing this rule set because a whole slew of other rule sets have quote-unquote let me down, disappointed me, whatever. I'm not motivated by that at all. There are all sorts of great games out there that I enjoy playing. I by and large have not been disappointed much at all in gaming. Of course, I can name a couple, but that's for another video. But those are really far and few between, actually, for me. So I'm not motivated by, thinking that something, fundamental, essential is missing from other designs or anything like that. Not motivated by that at all. Again, this is a positive motivation behind this. What I mean by that is, one, I am motivated to make a game that reflects my experience, period. My experience in the infantry, my experience as a platoon leader, my experience as a platoon leader in Iraq, my experience as a company commander, and my experience as a company commander in Afghanistan, and the experiences of others who have served and fought since 9/11. Okay, so there's definitely a personal motivation. I want a game that captures my experience, whatever that is, however convoluted that may turn out to be, or whatever. It's just something that captures my experience. There's that motivation. And second, there's this motivation of basically pure, what would you call it? Pure interest in basically seeing if a design could be built from the ground up that again captures the spirit contemporary combat. Yeah, combat, and even combat leadership, even though I've talked about how leadership is, on the face of it, de-emphasized in this game. But it's not really de-emphasized. It's really putting the emphasis back on the player. The player is the leader, not an individual leader, but the player is the leader, in an abstract sense of a force. So anyways, positive motivations. Okay, so when I talk about a positive motivation for the design here, I'm not, again, this isn't a negative design effort like I don't want to be something else. I'm one of the discussions on the miniatures page that prompted me thinking about this is that this is not meant to replace any game system. This isn't meant to. This is also not meant to be different for difference sake. The reasoning behind this handling of a sequence of play. Actually, before I go on, there's another point. Nowhere in this design effort is there any type of eureka moment, actually. I don't think I've mentioned one before, and I shouldn't mention it because I don't think there has ever been a eureka moment. So, again, the motivation behind this design is not some realization that I've captured something that nobody else has or whatever. No, it has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with that. As far from that, I would say that the evolution of this design has been very, very, very methodical and very incremental. Tiny little steps as I move through experimentation. Okay, so the idea behind, so this presentation of action periods in an action cycle, the way I like to look at this is that I'm simply taking the traditional turn and I'm turning it inside out. I'm turning it inside out, and basically units are acting in action point impulses, if you will. It's still not really an impulse system, but units are acting in action points, in discrete action points, with the possibility of opposing player intervention or interruption. But it's still, what I'm trying to say is this is simply a very different way of looking at what is still fundamentally a sequence of play that is taking, which goes back to what I read from the Fire and Movement article. It's still the same dilemma of how to show simultaneous action with a linear sequence of play. It's still the same challenge. It's just a different way of looking at it. That's it. And this did not come from any eureka moment whatsoever. I think the genesis of this is basically playing a small unit combat action game that uses an impulse system. After playing that game and not being disappointed with it at all, I enjoy that system very much, but I thought, again, as kind of a thought experiment, if one were to sit down and try to take that impulse system and kind of take it to the next level, what might that be? What might that look like? And that's where I started to think of, well, you know what? Even though this is a great impulse system, the other game I'm talking about, how come units have to be done? How come units have to be done? And basically what I came up with is that the only reason units have to be done is because you still have a meta framework of a turn. So then I thought, well, what happened if you actively tried to take down that meta framework of a turn? Would it work? What might it look like? So anyways, that's actually, I think, if I remember correctly, that's really the genesis of this. Okay, so now let's see if I can lay it out. Yeah, I still don't see there's still no, I still don't think there's a way to lay this out conceptually better than simply saying what you do. That's kind of the problem. So to back up a bit here, I think, yeah, I'll experiment with simply, okay, so Troops in Contact uses an alternating player action approach. A player action can be resolve a CF, act with a unit, or pass. So let's start. So the blue 4 is attacking, red 4 is defending. Up and down posture is still critical. Blue 4 starts in down posture. Red 4 is starting up posture in the woods because they want to be able to see as far as they can while balancing that with protection. Okay, so blue 4 is starting just out of, I guess, line of sight. A lot of things I developed, not developed, things I was working on before, many of them are actually still around. They're not falling away. So having up posture, down posture, and down plus full cover are still important elements here. So this unit is going to move in the down posture into the wood line there. So that is 2 for the woods, doubled for moving in down posture for 4. Okay, so the unit has expended. So blue 4 player chose among the options, resolve a CF, act with a unit, or pass. Blue 4 player chose to act with a unit. That unit moved in down posture. It expended 4 action points. We are starting in the first action period of the first action cycle. So because that unit expended 4 action points, it is marked plus 4 PM, which plus 4 from this action period is just the next first action period, right? We're going second period, third period, fourth period, back around to the first period. That's plus 1, 2, 3, 4, back around to the first action period of the next action cycle, which means that it is marked with a one action period marker, a one period marker. Yeah, a 1 period marker. Okay. Red 4 player passes back to blue 4 player. Blue 4 player is going to do the exact same thing here, moving down posture. Expends 4 action points, marked with plus 4 PM, like that. Red 4 player passes, blue 4 player. Blue 4 player will do one more. Blue 4 player moves here, rough terrain. I think that's 1.5 action points. Doubled for moving in down posture is 3. So this unit is marked plus 3 action periods. So again, second. So here we are in the first action period. If we go forward 3, second action period, third action period, fourth action period. So fourth action period of the current action cycle is this one. So this unit is marked with a 4 period marker. Boom. Okay. Red 4 player passes. Going to come back to blue 4 player, and blue 4 player is going to pass. So this is the end for the players. This is the end of the first action period. Okay. End of the first action period of the first action cycle. Again, all of this movement is starting now, if you want to look at it in real-time terms. Okay. We'll go to the second action period. First thing we do is we remove all 2 action period markers. There are none. Those are the blue markers. There are none. So we start. Now see, this is what's going to happen often, and this is why action periods should move by quickly. what's going to happen here is that the blue 4 player is the first option. I still haven't, I was wrestling with this again the other day. Do I go with a fixed first player? I'm still going with a fixed first player. I almost broke down the other day and went with a random determination of first player. But anyways, I'm leaving it at the situation attacker is the first player. What I'm going to do here is the blue 4 player is going to pass. The reason why the blue 4 player is going to pass is because he cannot act with these units that are already marked PM, because those units are in the midst of acting. They're not available for directed action. They're not available to the player for action. Simple. These two units are. In my playtesting before, it seemed to me, just as a general play idea, it seemed to me that it was important to keep units, some units uncommitted, basically. So anyways, this is a common point, I think, where players will, they started acting, we only started the second action period. Each action period corresponds to roughly 15 seconds of real-world action. So really, blue 4 has just got up and started advancing. Yeah, blue 4 player passes, red 4 player. Now red 4 player can pass now and end the action period or act. Red 4 player is actually going to pass, so that ends the second period. So you see, you have a second action period with no activity at all. So you fly through it, go on to the third action period. First thing we do is we remove third action period markers. We remove third action period markers. There are none. We're going to have the exact same thing. Blue 4 player passes, red 4 player passes. Now, I'll interject here that this is the most basic situation of a couple of teams or several teams going up against several teams. No indirect fire or anything like that. There will definitely be more to do. On the one hand, there will be more to do when we fill out the game experience, fill out the rules. On the other hand, I'm not staunchly against a lot of passing. Yeah, I don't know how else to put it. Okay, so let's go to the fourth action period. So we're in the fourth action period, first action cycle. First thing we do is we remove all 4 period markers. We have one right here. There's that 4 action period marker corresponding to that unit that moved forward in down posture. So we remove the marker showing that this unit is available again for directed action, player directed action. So blue 4 player is actually going to move forward here in down posture. So here we are. We are in the 4th period. The unit there expended 4 action points. So it is marked plus 4 PM. Plus 4 PM from the 4th action period of the first cycle is, again, the same 4th action period of the next action cycle. So it is marked with the same action, same period marker, like that. Okay. Red 4 player passes. Blue 4 player is going to actually move this unit. No, blue 4 player is going to pass. Ends the action period. So now we've ended the first action cycle, or the first minute of simulated time. We start the second action cycle. Start with the first action period of the second action cycle. First thing we do is we are in the first action period. So the first thing we do is we remove all 1 action period markers. Very easy. The action period you're in corresponds to the period markers that you remove at the start. So now blue 4 player has a lot more units available for action. So we go to the blue 4 player. Now the blue 4 player is going to do something. Blue 4 player is going to move there in down posture. So that's 2. What we're going to do... This is something I forgot, by the way. I'm going to go ahead and go through this. Not that this is good tactics at all, of course. But, so, blue 4 player moves there. It's obvious that he moved into clear terrain. Can't remember if I'm going with clear or open, but open terrain, I think. In down posture, it's obvious. So both players know that the acting blue 4 unit has expended 2 action points at this point. The red 4 player here is going to interrupt for opportunity or reaction fire. Now what's going on here is that, again, I'm not pulling out any tables, not going through any computations or anything. I'm going to say that the red 4 unit here doesn't actually observe the unit. Now the red 4 unit might see some movement up there, okay, but they don't observe the blue 4 unit, the acting blue 4 unit, okay? It's out of range for observation. But what I keep forgetting, and is very important, I think, what will be very important, I think, is unobserved fire. So anyways, I'm going to jump ahead here. This unit, so red 4 player says, I'm interrupting for reaction fire. Remember, reaction fire is the red 4 unit action. It's not a freebie. So I haven't changed that. So since red 4 interrupts, the blue 4 player knows that he can go ahead and mark +2 PM. The unit expended 2 action points. It's being interrupted. It's marked +2 PM. We're in the first action period. +2 action periods from the first is the third, right? +2 periods from the first period is the third period. So the unit's marked. The target is marked with a 3 PM like that. Or yeah, 3 PM. Yeah, third period marker. Okay. Now, so at this point, the firing unit, makes the declaration. The firing unit goes to the table, computes its firepower. Let's just say it's, let's just say it's 6. Okay, let's just say it's 6. From the starting firepower, this is a change from before. Yeah, this is a change, and this is now a hard rule. So firing unit determines what their starting firepower is. From that, all modifications to the firepower have to be made now for posture and terrain and observation and all the other factors. So let's say that it's unobserved fire and whatever other factors apply. Let's say that the 6 firepower is reduced to a 2 firepower because of all the modifications that you normally expect. Okay, boom. So it's reduced to a 2. It's dropped on the target. Target's already in down posture, but if it were in up posture, it'd be forced to down, and it's still forced to full cover, no change there. And then the casualty factors corresponding to the firepower, the effective firepower now, is dropped on the unit. You're done on that side. You come back to the firer. The firer picks up, again, I still haven't figured out the wording that I'm most comfortable with, but I think this is the latest wording I have. The latest wording I have is when any 2 unit or units interact, they pick up the latest period marker of the units involved or +1 PM at a minimum. And that still sounds, I don't know, it doesn't roll off the tongue, but in this case, the target unit is currently marked 3rd PM, right? So that means that the firer picks up the exact same marker, exact same PM. Again, this is another situation related to what I was talking about before about if I go into a bunch of background, it could be more confusing than simply saying procedurally the fire fired on a target. The target was already marked 3 p.m. Fire picks up the same p.m. as the target, period. Boom. Something like that. Okay. Yeah. I think I'll pause the video now and pick up, with the next video, pick up this same walkthrough talkthrough. Okay, so walkthrough talkthrough, this is the first part of a walkthrough talkthrough focusing primarily on sequence of play.